Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for September 5th, 2017. I'd like to welcome everybody that's with us in attendance here in City Hall as we set about to do the public's business. And with that, Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the roll.
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Peck, Director Hines, Director Wright, Director Wyrick, Director Campuris, Director Fortson, Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Webb, Mayor Studler.
Here. Let me call on City Director Doris Wright for the invocation, please.
May we bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to be present this evening to do the people's business. We thank you for each and every board member. We pray a special blessing upon our city manager and our city staff who are on the front lines. We thank you, Father, that you have preserved our city, and we thank you, Lord God, for your grace and your mercy towards us. We pray that you would protect our men and women in blue as they protect our city. And Lord God, we send up a prayer, especially for the people in Houston. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And if you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda. Is a presentation to the Dealing with Hunger Action Month, and I have a proclamation that I'd like to go to the podium and read for everyone, since this is a very, very important element in our community and has been for many, many years. The proclamation, of course, deals with an issue that we're all very concerned about, and that has to do with the continuing challenge of hunger and poverty in the United States. And it reads as follows: Know ye all people by these present greetings. Whereas hunger and poverty are issues of grave concern in the United States, and of course in the state of Arkansas and here in the city of Little Rock, and whereas the city of Little Rock is committed to taking steps to raise awareness about the need to solve hunger in every part of our city and to provide additional resources that the citizens of Little Rock need. And whereas the city of Little Rock is committed to working with the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, the Arkansas Food Bank, and other hunger agencies to educate people about the role of food banks, food pantries, and hunger relief programs in addressing hunger. And whereas Arkansas ranks second highest in the nation for both household and childhood food insecurity, according to Feeding America's map of the meal gap of 2017. And whereas more than 80,000 individuals, nearly 20%, 21,000 children, 22%, experience hunger annually in Pulaski County, many of whom rely on food assistance from hundreds of these partner organizations. And whereas the Emergency Food Network, comprised of hundreds of hunger relief organizations across the state, last year provided more than 53 million pounds of food to the vulnerable children, seniors, adults, and families in Arkansas. And whereas hunger organizations across the country, including the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, the Arkansas Food Bank, will host events and activities throughout the month of September to bring awareness to the issue of hunger and encourage community involvement to help alleviate hunger here in the city of Little Rock and in cities across the state. Now, therefore, I, Mark Stodler, the mayor of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby, along with our city board of directors, proclaim September as Hunger Action Month here in the city of Little Rock. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and seal on this proclamation, as well as every one of our city directors, on this 5th day of September, 2017.
There are several people in the audience. Could they stand?
There are several people who are responsible for providing and responding to the hunger issues. If you would please stand. We have with us members of the Hunger Relief Alliance and the Arkansas Food Bank. And are there any other agencies as well that I didn't recognize? All right, well, thank you so much for spending your personal time down here to help us recognize the importance of this to our community. We know we have many food deserts throughout our city, and we work on a daily basis to make sure that our children are getting the proper nutrition that they receive so that they can excel and do everything and attain all of the opportunities that people receive when they receive healthy, nutritious meals. We know it's so important to their education, and it's so important to many of our senior people as well. So thank you so much for what you do, and I'm going to present this to the Arkansas Food Bank and to the Hunger Relief Alliance. Thank you. Thank you. I think she wants to. Thank you very much. All right, we can now go on to our consent agenda, which are items 1 through 9. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the consent agenda for us.
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the May 16th, 2017, June 16th, 2017, and June 20th, 2017 Little Rock City Board of Directors meetings, a resolution to set September 19th, 2017 as the date of public hearing on the request to abandon 1.29 acres of excess right-of-way on Wellington Village Road, and for other purposes, a resolution to authorize the execution of a historic preservation easement for the U.S. Arsenal Building and surrounding grounds, and for other purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Alexander Open Systems in the amount of $50,653.79 plus taxes and fees, utilizing the Arkansas State Purchasing Contract for the annual renewal of the Cisco equipment maintenance for the city's core network infrastructure, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Burkhalter Technologies Incorporated in amount not to exceed $199,198.80 for construction of the Dunbar Gibbs Sidewalk Project, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the acceptance of a land donation by Come and Go Company of approximately 2 acres of land near the intersection of Chenal Parkway and Wellington Hills Road, and for the purposes, a resolution to certify local government endorsement of Ty Garments USA LLC located at 8909 Fush Dam Pike Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, to participate in the Arkansas Tax Back Program as authorized by Arkansas Code Section 15-4-2706D of the Consolidated Incentive Act of 2003, and for the purposes, a resolution to amend Section 3 of the Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution Number 14,401 of August the 16th, 2016, to completely define appropriate projects, and for the purposes, a resolution to set October 2nd, 2017 as the date of public hearing on the request to consider the issuance of Port Authority revenue bonds for the purpose of financing capital improvements at the Port of Little Rock, and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The consent agenda is adopted.
Mayor, you didn't see my light.
Everyone's is on.
I did that for the voting. Did you have a question, Director Hendricks? On item 3 of the consent agenda? Go ahead, please. If you'll turn on your microphone. Go ahead, please.
On number 3, I know where it is, but would you share with the public where this building is located?
Item 3 refers to MacArthur Park and the preservation easement around the Military Museum, which is also known as the U.S. Arsenal Building. It's a building that's on the National Register, I think is a historic landmark. Does that
Thank you.
answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted the public to know.
Okay, very good.
Mayor, before we go into the grouped items, I have a question on 15. Hopefully I can put this to bed real quick before we go through the reading.
Well-
Or do you want to go through the readings and?
Let's, if you will, let me go ahead and deal with citizen communication first. And the next item on our agenda is citizen communication, and I have a card from Carolyn Hobbs.
Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Hobbs. I'm here because I have a great love for the children and families of Little Rock. I'm here because I'm an aunt, a great aunt, and a great great aunt. I'm here because people in the community are asking me to come out and tell what we did in the 90s to alleviate and end the gang violence in Little Rock. I worked with New Futures for 2 years. I worked as the executive director of the Step Up Center for 7 years, where we housed 4 gang intervention programs. The gang intervention programs were the YIP model that the city is still utilizing. The big emphasis in the YIP project was training. We trained 10 men to work in the highest crime areas of the city, and we provided hands-on training in the evening and at night. We actually recruited the gang members. I worked with the Bloods, the Crips, the Folks, and the Viceroys. And I would actually take those children on job interviews, to school, intervene with the schools when they were suspended. And reviewing the PIT, the big emphasis in PIT is intervention. So I think we need to revisit the tactics that we're using now. I have worked in Houston, Texas, in the highest crime areas. I was asked to come to Detroit and show them what we did in Little Rock. And I just want us to really revisit why we're not using the tactics that we used in the past. And I worked very hard with some of the city board directors that are here now, the city manager. And we all rolled up our sleeves, and I called them at home. Some of them had cell phones then. Director Willie Hinton, he would tell me to meet him at the school, or I'd call his wife. Everybody was very concerned about the children dying. And I can't sleep at night now at the rate these babies and these children and these grandmas are just dying by straight bullets. I don't feel comfortable going out. I love this city. I love going out, but I don't feel that comfort anymore. And we worked very hard for this city to end the violence, and now it's back. So I want us to revisit, what are we doing differently than when we did in the 90s? We had a very terrible gang intervention problem. We had a very bad problem, but we were able to intervene.
Well, thank you very much, Carolyn. I appreciate your suggestions, and you should know that we're working in a similar vein, hiring people that are in the streets. Obviously, the key issue is finding the people that are the right people to contact the kids that need the help the most. And so we've got people employed, and we're looking for additional people too. Director Richardson and I have met on that, as well as with the city manager, so that we can bring them in through what we call Ceasefire Little Rock. About a month ago or so, I announced the Little Rock for Life action plan to bring safety to our streets and to rebuild our neighborhoods, and I'll be happy to make sure you get a copy of that, because it's very comprehensive and broad-reaching in terms of a variety of the programs that we think are important. So the city is taking a lot of action, and we think it's having some positive effect so far. So, I mean, obviously, this is not something that turns around overnight, but certainly any suggestions and advice you have are certainly things we want to hear, and we will take and act on them. So thank you.
Okay. My concern is, big concern, are we really recruiting the right children? Because recruitment is the main purpose of YIP, and you have to be trained to recruit children in the street.
You're exactly right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Richardson's first. Director Hendricks, if you want to visit, please turn your light on. If you turn your microphone on, please, Director Hendricks.
It's red.
It's supposed to be green. Push on it.
It's still red.
No.
There we go. I wanted to ask you, have you ever, it's obvious, but have you ever visited with the mayor or the city manager?
Well, I've met with the city manager on many times. I haven't visited
Recently.
with not recently, and I haven't visited with the current mayor.
Well, I suggest that you do.
Okay, thank you.
Director
Carolyn.
Richardson.
Thank you, Mayor. Carolyn, you made reference to your community-based work. Can you tell us what part of the community you administer programs and the different levels of involvement that you had and the different types of programs with respect to male, females, and Hispanics?
Okay, we put programs at New Futures in the 10 highest crime areas. I've actually worked in the East End. I worked in Granny Mountains. I worked in Howland Court, where Howland Court is not there, but that's the 12th Street area. And I worked in Southwest Little Rock. And what happened was the children, when they closed Howland Court down and they closed Apollo Terry and Granny Mountain and the East End projects and the South End projects, I worked in the South End as well. They moved to Southwest Little Rock because of affordable housing. So we have a large number of the children in Southwest Little Rock that came from the other areas, but we still have, you know, some of the families in East Little Rock and Granny Mountain and 12th Street.
So, Carolyn, do you have any kind of involvement or relationships in the community to date right now? And if so,
Well, I'm an
are we-
author right now. I actually, I wrote a book, and I am doing volunteer work, and I'm doing consultant for other cities.
well, I mean, I guess that's the genesis of my question. If you come down there with these concerns, obviously you have some kind of connection or some kind of finger on the pulse of the community. Would you say that the areas that you made reference to earlier are still relevant today? Are they still the same areas that we have problems with?
Oh, yes. I still have families in those communities that I visit, I check on. I was very involved. I'm a hands-on person.
Well, I echo Director Hendricks' recommendation that you visit with our mayor and the ceasefire program. I think it's another initiative that would be helpful in terms of how we move our community forward to address some of these idiotic episodes of violence in our community.
Right, and children walk up to me daily saying, if it wasn't for the programs that you worked with, we would be dead or in prison. And we have children that are judges now. We have them, matter of fact, one was going to come, but he's at work at UAMS tonight. We really connected the children to permanent institutions, former gang members.
Okay, thank you for your concern, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Okay, we can now move on to items 10 through 15, and I believe, Director Hines, you had a question you wanted to ask about item 15 before we begin? Go ahead, please.
Bruce, as I look at this, I don't look at it as closely on agenda meeting, but we're basically gonna spend an extra $3,000 a month for them to host and maintenance the site. Does any of that include any, I mean, what are we getting for that month? Because they're already hosting our main site, and if they're doing this as a micro site, it doesn't seem to me that there's $3,000 worth of maintenance and updating to be done a month, but I was hoping you were gonna tell me what all we're getting.
Sure. As we have been talking about for quite a period of time, as we try to get more people in the pool for our hiring system, they looked at cities sort of across the country that were having success rates as far as applicants. And one of the things was this sort of microsite concept. So let me ask Randy, Randy Foshi, our IT director, to come forward and talk about exactly what we're getting. His department negotiated directly with Aristotle. Randy.
So, Mayor, Board of Directors, we're actually paying right now $36,970 for our maintenance of our current website. So if you look at the item on there in the board communication, you see a reference of $8,650. That's the development cost for this microsite.
Okay, so
That's-
we're already paying, okay, so.
So this is a
that's-
modification of an existing contract that
Okay.
ends it ends July of 2018.
Okay.
So we're making a modification and
So,
adding.
so we're not adding an additional $3,000 a month in
No,
maintenance?
we're-
We're just paying the one-time
One time for
$8,000
that, for that,
them to create it?
and
Okay,
the site will be included in the maintenance that we're already paying.
okay, all right, that's what I was wanting some clarification on.
All right.
Thank you. And one other question, so, and the reason we're doing this no bid is we feel Aristotle can get it up quicker than putting it out for bid, and,
As I said, we're using the existing maintenance, so we've got a dedicated hosted server with
Okay.
Aristotle that will actually store the data and house the data
Okay.
as part of this site.
all right, thanks,
So-
that's all I had.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized.
I think this is the same question. Lance, were you on number 12? What number were you on? 15. I'm concerned about number 12.
Mr. Moore?
Sure. I'll ask Mr. Foshi to come back forward, but this is our new system we're adding to our CAD system that we currently have, and this is to assist the fire department in basically getting out to calls even faster than they do. So, Randy.
So right now, if you'll recall, a few weeks ago, y'all approved the purchase of a new system for the fire department called Mock Alert, which integrates to all the fire stations. That was about $900,000 for that. This is the portion that interfaces that directly with the CAD vendor software. So when a dispatcher is taking a call, it will automatically open the mics in the appropriate fire stations for them. There's no manual process required. So that speeds up that effort in doing that by automating that function.
Was it any reason why both of these did not come at the same time?
We were still determining whether we needed to do this at that time.
So now you decided you need to do it.
Yes.
Any cost, Bruce?
Yeah, the costs are outlined there in the ordinance, $131,283. But this was also a big component, or a major component of our accreditation. When that team came in, they identified this as a potential weakness with our CAD system. So that's why I moved very quickly to get this addressed.
So this is something that our present chief of fire had requested?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, on number 14, before you start the readings, we got a letter from Lopfe wanting a clarification on who is eligible to receive this benefit. So on page 2 of the ordinance, I think they've been passed out. Yeah, they were passed out tonight. On page 2.
Everyone has one updated ordinance on their desk.
If you look at lines 5 to 12, in subsections A and B, the phrase, "except alternate payees under a qualified domestic relations order" has been added. So if y'all will consider the reading to include that language, you won't have to amend it when you go through the readings.
So the ordinance that we'll be reading on is this particular ordinance that we have before us. Okay. Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
Item 15, who in the police department will be handling this? Would be in training?
That's correct.
But we're not going to take any other officers off the street to.
Oh,
put into
no,
this?
not at all. No, this is, it's a training / IT issue.
Okay, thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Were we speaking on number 15 on that last question? So is this an additional, is this an additional component to our website, Bruce, or is this something,
Correct, it
it's
is.
just a new component to our website and it's not taking any officers out off the streets? Do we have a directed effort in terms of how we're gonna put this out or input this so
We
that
do.
we're deliberate in terms of what we're trying to get and how we're trying to get them?
Correct.
Okay, and that's done through IT as well? Or
Well, again, the expertise as far as
maintenance?
the knowledge and all, that'll come from Sergeant Thomas and his staff. And then IT, obviously, just from the technical standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
I'll pass.
Very good. All right. Let's see, we can go ahead now and ask for first reading of ordinances 10 through 15, please. Just one reading on item 10.
A resolution to change the name of that portion of West 65th Street located west of University Avenue to Hyndman Parkway and for other purposes. An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid and to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation in the amount of $131,283 plus taxes and fees to provide an automated interface between the city's computer-aided dispatch system and the Motorola Mock Alert fire station alerting system and for the purposes. An ordinance declared impractical and unfeasible to bid and to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation in an amount of $163,887 plus taxes and fees to provide an automated secure alarm protocol for the computer-aided dispatch system and for the purposes. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 20,805 of October the 15th, 2013 to allow for a $150 per month increase in benefits to members of the Little Rock Police Pension and Relief Fund, now administered by the Arkansas Local Police and Fire Retirement System, to amend the amortization period, declare an emergency, and for the purposes. An ordinance to find it impractical and unfeasible to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Aristotle Interactive to host a police recruitment website on the city's website in an amount not to exceed $45,620 plus taxes and fees, to declare an emergency and for the purposes first reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place ordinances 11 through 15 on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance declared impractical and unfeasible to bid and to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation in the amount of $131,283 plus taxes and fees to provide an automated interface between the city's computer-aided dispatch system and the Motorola Mock Alert fire station alerting system. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid and to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation in the amount of $163,887 plus taxes and fees to provide an automated secure alarm protocol for the computer-aided dispatch system. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 20,805 to allow for a $150 per month increase in benefits to the members of the Little Rock Police Pension and Relief Fund, now administered by the Arkansas Local Police and Fire Retirement System, to amend the amortization period, to declare an emergency. An ordinance to find it impractical and feasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Aristotle Interactive to host a police recruitment website on the city's website in an amount not to exceed $45,620 plus taxes and fees to declare an emergency. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid and authorize the city manager to award a contract to Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation in the amount of $131,283 plus taxes and fees to provide an automated interface between the city's computer-aided dispatch system and the Motorola Mock Alert fire system alerting system. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid and to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation in the amount of $163,887 plus taxes and fees to provide an automated secure alarm protocol for the computer-aided dispatch system. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 20,805 to allow for a $150 per month increase in benefits to members of the Little Rock Police Pension and Relief Fund, now administered by the Arkansas Local Police and Fire Retirement System, to amend the amortization period to declare an emergency. An ordinance to find it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to award a contract to Aristotle Interactive to host a police recruitment website on the city's website, an amount not to exceed $45,620 plus taxes and fees to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
Okay.
All
If
the
there are,
lights are on. Clear 'em up.
go ahead, Director Hendricks.
I have questions to ask on 14 and 15. Am I in order?
If you would, go ahead.
Okay, on 14, can you tell me where this money's coming from, Mr. Moore? Where's the money coming from?
Pension system.
The pension system, Director Hendricks.
So this is automatic?
dedicated-
It's nothing that you have to pull to put some money in to give these people retirement money? None of that? Okay, number 15, do we have any Arkansans or anybody in this state that could do this? Why do we always get people out of state to do things?
Director Hendricks, this is a Little Rock-based company.
Okay, does it say that in here?
I don't normally
Well,
say
see,
it, but
you
it's,
have to, otherwise, you know, I'm going to question it. Thank you.
All right, all in favor of
located in
passage of
Ward one.
resolution number 10 and ordinances 11 through 15 indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinances have passed, and on the emergency clause on ordinance 14, all in favor of the emergency clause indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause is also passed, and on ordinance number 15, all in favor of the emergency clause indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. And the emergency clause is also passed.
And Mayor, I'd like to add for Director Hendricks, this company is actually also headquartered in Ward One.
Did you have more comments, Director Hendricks?
I really want to ask the staff, did we do what was asked at that last meeting about Granite Mountain?
Say that again, please.
Granite Mountain, did we do what we were supposed to do? Did you hear me?
No. What?
I just wanted to ask if staff actually completed everything, but Dean seems to think that they did with the 3M company.
Those are the
I'm
next
just not the one-
items.
What is it?
Those are the next items.
Okay. I'm ahead.
Okay,
Haven't we read them?
we're ready to move on to our separate items, 16 and 17. Director Fortson, do you have a question or a comment before we begin?
Well, on number 16, and perhaps this is what Director Hendricks was talking about, I realize we did this last Tuesday, but a lot of people weren't here, and there was confusion the first time it was considered. I wonder, Mr. Moore, if we could have Mr. Collins again explain the maps and what this covers.
Sure, yeah, weekend. Let me ask Mr. Collins to come forward. And Scott, if you pull up the, oh, I'm sorry, Joshua.
Okay. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board, as we spoke of last week, one of the things that staff was tasked with was going back and revising the maps for the land use and the rezoning, and which we did. One you're looking at right now is the land use map. One of the questions that was raised was what was the underlying zoning of the, especially the location number 2 of the land use. So what we did was we highlighted that area, so as you can see, that area is underlining as mining zoning right now for the land use. So the question was raised from industrial to mining, and why was it going to mining? And in staff's review of it, it was changing from an industrial land use to mining land use, which is the current zoning of the property. And that is what we would typically do. Well, every year we typically come back on areas throughout the city, 7 areas like we presented a couple months ago, to try to align land use with the current zoning. We currently, when an applicant now applies for a project, that comes through, if there's any zoning prescribed in there or rezoning, we ask that they do the same thing that we would, align their land use with the zoning they have at hand if it doesn't match. So that's the land use portion of it. Josh, if you can go to the first zoning map, track 4 and 5, down on item 17. The next question was that we addressed was the location of the 2 tracks that were removed from the application that is no longer considered to be voted on for the rezoning, and that was track 4, which was removed at the Planning Commission, and track 5 removed from by the applicant, and deferred to the next meeting. And so those 2 areas, we shown them so you can kind of see where they were at. Josh, if you go back to the one once removed, just right underneath the one you just did. And then that map shows the tracks that are to be considered and voted on, which is 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7.
So in essence, what you're saying is that zoning-wise, 4 and 5 are unchanged.
That's correct. And that was a question that.
Balance of the tracks are being changed to open space.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Director Campuris, you're recognized, please.
Jamie, I'm sorry this has been such an ordeal for you. I think that what I think Irma and Ken and I want to make sure for this community is that if anybody ever wants to mine here, they by right, on anything we vote on tonight, don't have that right. They have to come back and ask for that permission.
Director Pierce, that is correct. They will have to come through a staff application for a rezoning, and then it will go through planning and then come back to the board.
So I think that's the protection that we all want, and that's the bottom line. So I appreciate you clarifying this, but I think we've accomplished what we wanted to do as far as that community is concerned. Those 2 communities are concerned. So thank you.
Well,
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
Mayor, I wanted to ask you if we have any persons in the audience that may not have filled out a card that's interested.
I've got cards
Oh, well,
on this matter.
thank you. Let them speak.
Okay, we do have some cards. Let me ask if the applicant's here and wishes to make a presentation.
Hello, Mayor Studla and board members. My name is Meg Johnston. My firm, Mitchell Williams, represents 3M's Little Rock facility. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk to you today. As a preliminary matter, I want to tell you the 2 most important things you need to know about this application. It is not seeking to rezone any property to mining, which Jamie just talked about. And it's not changing 3M is not changing its operations in any way in connection with this application. If all of its applications are approved, 3M will actually be voluntarily dedicating approximately 30 acres of its property in the city of Little Rock to open space uses. As you know, open space is restricted use. The point is to have minimal disturbance to the property, and the things you can use it for are like recreation, wildlife refuge, or similar activities. The rezoned property will serve as a dedicated buffer between 3M's plant facility and its neighbors. In a related application, 3M is requesting a change to reflect the proposed open space zoning in Tract 3 and to align with the current zoning in its property. Additionally, and this will be considered in the hearing later, 3M seeks to abandon the Chamber of Commerce Edition plat and portions of the Granite Park and Frisbee Edition plats. None of the areas to be abandoned are developed. They're paper plats. None of the roads, alleys, or right-of-ways that are being abandoned are actually in existence. They will not impact anyone's access to their property. I do want to say throughout this process, and we've been here several times, 3M has been listening to you, and it's been listening to its neighbors. We've held multiple community meetings with the College Station Progressive League, with Granite Mountain Neighborhood Association, and smaller groups in the neighborhoods to address concerns about the proposal. As a result of these meetings, 3M removed all mining zoning from its application. Additionally, 3M has been working with its neighbors in the College Station area to address concerns unrelated to this zoning application that were brought to light during these meetings, and it's going to continue to do that. So, in summary, we believe these applications benefit the people of Little Rock, and we ask for your vote on our proposal tonight. We will reserve the rest of our time for our response.
Thank you, Ms. Johnston. Mr. Shalhorn, do you wish to speak?
I'm with Ms. Johnson.
Very good. Richard Waits? Marty Green? All right. I've got cards that wish to speak against it, and I'll give you an opportunity to respond to anything that may come up that has not already been addressed. The first card I have is from Terry Gray.
Mr. Mayor, board members, I thank you for hearing us out. It's been a grueling ordeal for the citizens of College Station also. 3M's hadn't been through what we've been through. But if on issues 16 and 17, if this wording stays as it is and the map stays as it is, we have no objection to those issues. They said what we wanted to hear, that they will have to come back through this board, through this body, if they want to do any mining or anything with that property, and we can come to an agreement with that. We're willing to meet them with that issue. On ordinance 18, the plats in the right-of-ways, when they get to that, I want to address those issues. I have questions on that.
Elsie Mae Lee. Elsie, you had indicated item 22, and we don't have a 22, so I'm. What? Well, it might have been that number previously.
Yes, I put 22 on it, but it's 16 on this one.
16 on this one now?
Yes.
All right, well, you're recognized, please.
My name is Elsa Mae Lee, and I'm from the College Station community. And first of all, I want to say to the manager, I thank you for paying to some of my attention on cutting the grass and everything. But what my main concern is, when we was here the last time, the subject come up as us signing some letters. And we were supposed to have a meeting on that, which has never occurred. So to Ms. Johnson, could you tell me what happened? Pardon me?
If you'll address us and then.
Oh, I am sorry. I am so sorry. But I'm saying when it did come up, the last meeting we was at, it came up about us signing some letters, and we were supposed to have a meeting on that. At least y'all asked them to have a meeting with us, which we have not had. Also, and I'm just concerned on what was that about, because I never did get the understanding of it.
You didn't get the understanding of what now?
The letters that she said,
Okay, well, we'll ask them to address that issue in a minute then.
all right, then I appreciate it.
All right? Is there anything else you want to tell us?
No, I just want to answer that question and tell them that I appreciate that they were beginning to listen to what we were
All right.
saying. Thank you.
All right, very good. Ms. Johnson, do you want to respond to that, please, or if you can?
Sure. We have, 3M has met with a small group of the College Station residents actually in the past couple of days. And I think we understood that that was who we were supposed to be meeting with, the people who had concerns. Now, with regard to the letters, that was I misspoke. I misunderstood that I thought they had sent in a letter in support, and they had not, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. Director Hendricks, do you have a comment or question for? Okay, if there are no other questions on items 16 and 17, is there a motion to approve ordinances 16 and 17? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the passage of ordinances 16 and 17 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinances have passed. Now we can move on to ordinance number 18. And Mr. Gray, I'm going to recognize you again. What? Excuse me. Let me go ahead and open up the public hearing as we're discussing this. Go ahead.
On ordinance 18,
Right.
I would just like to know these streets and plats which they're wanting to do away with, because I think some of them are in my neighborhood, and they're just saying, they're giving a general description. Where are these locations? That's what I would like to know.
Mr. Carpenter or Mr. Collins, I believe the ordinance specifically indicates the streets that are going to be abandoned. Is that correct?
Mayor, that is correct. It's, if you, Josh, if you go to the zoning map, you kind of look at the areas that they're looking to abandon the rights of way within those areas. And those are what they call paper plats. It was lots that got platted in a lot block situation a long time ago, and they haven't ever been developed. You know, the College Station and some portions at the very end have been developed. They're not looking to abandon those, you know, in those plats. So these, they have a few minor easements that are in it that they will retain, you know, as far as service, but they are very minor. Josh, if you go back to, I think there's a sketch, where it says sketched, there you go. That'll show a portion of it, those plats, what they look like to be abandoned. And they're just, you know, alleyways, right-of-ways that were part of that original paper plat that got filed.
So there's no paved streets there?
No,
that
there's no paved
So
streets.
it's only a paper plat, there's no development whatsoever that's ever occurred there?
Yeah, that's correct. And in the verbiage of the ordinance, specifically says that if there is any utility that's in there, they retain their easements. They're not giving up those easements, so service of any utility, even if it's in a minor area, is not given up in this abandonment.
Okay, thank you. Director Hendricks, do you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask you, because of his question, I'm concerned, were there any owners in that area that were notified or not notified that he's concerned? I'm concerned, Mayor, about his concern. Does he own land in that area? Were you notified?
Well, Director Hendricks, the notification sent out per, our standard, where we notify everybody when we do these. Now, in particular to properties, within that abandonment, is my understanding that all the requested abandonment is within the 3M property.
Okay, so my question, Mayor, would be back to the gentleman. Does he own property there and he was not notified? He's concerned. I'm not gonna sit here like a dummy and not answer this man.
Yeah, Director Hendricks,
My question is to the gentleman that came before.
well, I understand he expressed his concern because he lives in the area, but this land is all owned by 3M
Well, that's
from a
all I want.
notification standpoint.
I hear you, but I want to ask him. Come to that microphone. Do you own anything there that you're concerned? Why are you concerned?
Because they say it's 3M property, but we do have some land disputes going on down there about just where the surveys are, where the new city lines are drawn versus the county lines. And I've expressed those issues with them personally, so I'm not looking for the board to take up that fight for me because I enjoy that too much. But,
But
my
again,
question is, I'm sort of in
stay to the mic.
I'm sort of in no man's land because where my house is county. Now, across the street is city. They say behind me, or at the end of me, is county and city, so I don't know who has jurisdiction where. And I just want to know, when I got a concern, don't tell me it's a city issue. Then I come to the city and they tell me it's a county issue. And if it's this stuff, this area that they're talking about is city, will the city come out and put up city markers to let the people in College Station know you're in the city limits?
I agree with him. He's making sense. He's
Because-
not stupid.
Pulaski County, well, College Station is a little city in middle of Little Rock, We got maybe 6 blocks that are county in the middle of the city. So, we don't get to really participate in city activities because we're saying we're in the county. Everything we do comes under the county headlines, so.
Mr. Moore, do you want to address? You look like you got something to say.
I just want to know where the city is and where the county is.
Sure. We haven't changed any boundaries. In fact, one of the things I did when I first became manager, I sort of had a few meetings out in College Station because it is half of it's in the county, half of it's in the city. And I sort of had this thought to gain population, let's annex them. And they ran me out of there pretty quick. But let me ask Jamie to come forward and kind of explain the right-of-way and how, when we annexed it, how it came in. Jamie?
Is there anything we can give this young man probably tomorrow or some other day? Tom says no.
Yeah, let Jamie, I think he has a good explanation.
Let me explain first about the procedure of our annexation. When we annex a portion into the property or accept an annex from somebody bring it in, if it goes to a right-of-way line, then with the agreement that we've made with the county, Pulaski County, we also take ownership of the right-of-way itself. So that way, there's no dual right-of-way ownership. The portion of right-of-way that is in front of his property, I believe, that is all city right-of-way. That's not county right-of-way for that street. That's in front of his. I can't speak to his adjacent property to the west, and staff can sit down with him and go over some of the, the areas. I think that's the second question you was raising, as far as the location of his property in there, because my understanding of some of those property lines that were laid out back in the day that they got put on there, you have to go out and verify that, and they have been verified, and that may be a question that needs to be raised to the applicant and their surveyor that I believe they have here tonight on when they went out and marked the property in question and the location. And has he seen those flags they got marked and stuff like that?
So Jamie, are you talking about property that we're doing a public hearing on right now? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it relevant to what he's asking?
It is adjacent to his property.
Bruce, does he need to meet with you or Tom? Tom says no, so
No.
you're not included.
If the street I live on, is it in the county or in the city?
You have
Mr.
to.
Parham.
It's the street I live on, is it county or city?
The property to the north of him was annexed, and that right-of-way is a city.
So he's concerned. So what are you telling?
No, he wants to know if it's in the
The
street in
property
front of
is-
his house is in the city.
The property is not. His property is not in the city, but the right-of-way for the road just north of him is. It goes to the southern right-of-way line.
If I get in the street, I'm in the city of Little Rock, basically.
That is correct.
You might want to consider annexing just to clear it up.
Which, if I may, you just brought up a question. Why is College Station being annexed a little at a time? You know, now we've annexed from this end.
Well, you heard Mr. Moore, we were trying to bring it all into the city at one time, thinking that was the best way to provide improved city services, and apparently there were some folks that didn't like what Mr. Moore was suggesting and told him to go back where he came from.
How long ago was that? I mean,
I said earlier, it was early on, probably early 2000, 2004, 2005. And I know there's a lot of different feelings out there about annexation because, you know, I remember very clearly they said we live in the county because we don't want city regulations. And that was the main argument back then.
but if I'm in the county, as soon as I step off my property, I gotta go by city regulations, so what's the difference?
Okay, you have to come downtown. Come downtown and visit.
You may want to talk to some of your neighbors about that.
You know, well, it was my understanding that when they said they annexed all that across the street, they didn't have to go to a public forum. So why did y'all go through a public forum?
The public forum tonight's on a zoning issue.
Oh, no, I was just asking the question. He was saying about annexation, so I just asked if they were allowed to annex that property without a public forum, why would we need one now to annex?
They would have to have a public forum to
Well,
have an annexation.
You've got different statutes. When properties are contiguous to the city, a city can annex it that way. It goes before the county judge, it goes before the planning commission, eventually comes to the board of directors.
Thank you.
Director Wright, do you want to comment on this?
Would like staff to clarify what abandoning the right-of-way actually means and entails. So what changes?
Mr. Collins?
So there's not confusion when we leave here.
If you can, Director Wright, if you can look up and kind of in that shaded area that's under the red hatching, you kind of see some lots that are on there. That's that lot and block configuration. So there's not any legal description for the lots other than lot 6 of block something. So what changes, the only thing that changes is those lot lines go away. And typically in an abandonment, and we abandon right-of-way, the property is split amongst the adjacent property owners to the center line of the right-of-way or roadway if it's aligned with the right-of-way. In this condition, because the owner is 3M, all of it goes. So the right-of-way is not split, it just goes all to 3M. So the lots go away and then it all becomes there. So it combines all into one tract.
So, in other words, there would be no obligation ever to put improved streets in here because it's no longer required.
That's correct.
Okay, so unless you are living in this, this does not affect your property?
No, ma'am, it doesn't. And we go through an exhaustive research with all the utilities to make sure where their lines are at. And then we put that verbiage in that ordinance, like I was explaining earlier, that if there just so happens to be a utility line and there's in that right-of-way, it does not lose its easement.
Right, but that's for the utility.
That's for the utility.
But that has nothing to do with
And
these property owners.
they have all utilities are signed off on this abandonment, so.
But none of this, then, so this really does not affect the property owners, other property owners that own.
It does not affect any of the property owners because 3M owns all the property that is in question. I mean, they've bought the tracks over years and compiled them for all this.
All right, thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Collins, you made reference earlier, we're gonna let you sit down in a second. You made reference earlier to notation or markings of particular piece of property west of the property. Can you give us a description or a location of the property that you made reference to that needs to be marked or notated?
Okay, Director Richardson, I think that question may be best addressed by their surveyor that 3M has today, because they're the ones that went out and physically marked the corners and tried to locate everything when that stuff was out there. So I would defer to them for that, because I was told that they had located those lines for them.
So can we see those lines? Do you guys have,
Sorry, we're trying to figure out the best person to come up and speak with you.
Director Richardson, I'm Scott Shellhorn. I'm with Mitchell Williams as well. I believe if I'm understanding the question, that there is a disagreement, for lack of a better word, on where the property line is between a lot that is owned by, or several lots that are owned by 3M and property owned by Mr. Gray. Is that what we're talking about?
okay.
And that is not involved at all with part of the abandoning plat. This is on the south side of 39th Street, is that correct? 38th, okay. It's the south side of 38th Street, actually in the county. And when 3M bought those properties, as in, any established neighborhood all over the city, there's sometimes disagreements on where the property line lays. And, over the years, there's a vacant piece of property. Sometimes improvements wander, your flower garden or your fence. Sometimes they vary off the property line. And I think that's what the situation is here. There's just a misunderstanding or a disagreement on where the property line is, and 3M is talking and continues to talk with Mr. Gray on figuring that out. And 3M has surveyed the property, understands what it thought it bought anyway, and have asked Mr. Gray to provide a copy of his deed and other information to show what he thinks he owns, and then we're going to try to reconcile those two items. But at
So
this
that's still,
point,
we have no finality to that? That's still in dispute? Is that what we?
there's still conversations trying to sort that out, and it's been, we've asked
But
Mr. Gray.
it doesn't have
provide
anything to
information.
do with this.
It has nothing at all to
abandonment
do with this
whatsoever, so it's really
abandonment.
probably not germane to the discussion. But
I would agree.
Thank you.
all right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve ordinance number 18. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to pass ordinance 18. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. The ordinance is passed. We can now open up the public hearing on Resolution 19 concerning the issuance of revenue bonds for the Little Rock Water Reclamation Commission. Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against the resolution? Anyone who wishes to speak for or against the resolution? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and ask for a motion. There's a motion and a second to adopt the Resolution 19.
We didn't read it.
Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
A resolution authorized the offer of up to $11 million of City of Little Rock, Arkansas Water Reclamation System revenue bonds and for the purposes.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor of the passage of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay.
I didn't get who motioned and seconded.
I second.
Okay.
Director Adcock motioned and Director Wright seconded. Okay, we are coming close to the end. We have an executive session planned. Is there a motion to go into executive session
Go into
for the
executive
purpose
session.
of appointments to boards and commissions? There's a motion and a second. All in favor of going into executive session indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. We're in executive session and we'll return shortly. We are now reconvened as a board for the purpose of appointments. The first commission to fill is the City Beautiful Commission. And we have 3 positions to fill, 2 at large and 1 professional position. I'd like to appoint Robert Winchester as a reappointment at large, Billy Woods to the landscape architect position as a reappointment, and Justin Blagg to the at-large position. All in favor of confirmation indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. They're approved. The next commission is our Community Housing Advisory Board. There are currently 5 positions available. We have one we can fill tonight. Diana Thomas, I'd like to appoint her to the Real Estate Business Community Representative position. All in favor of confirming her indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. She is approved. On the Historic District Commission, we have 2 positions open. I'd like to appoint Amber Jones to the owner and occupant position, and Robert Hodge to the owner occupant living in another MacArthur Park Historic District, or in another National Register district other than the MacArthur Park Historic District. All in favor of confirmation of those 2 appointments indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. They're approved. The next board is the Little Rock Water Reclamation Commission. I'd like to appoint Deborah Schock to that position. All in favor of her confirmation indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. She is approved. And to our Racial and Cultural Diversity Commission, I would like to appoint Juliana Flynn to the Ward 3 position. All in favor of her confirmation indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. She is approved. And to the River Market District Design Review Committee, I'd like to appoint Mike Matchett to the property owner position. All in favor of his confirmation indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. He's approved, and we'll continue to advertise one position there for a design professional. And that should conclude all of our appointments. If there's nothing else to come before us, is there a motion to adjourn? There's a motion and a second to adjourn. Director Richardson has his light on.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Bruce, thank you for the memo about the delineation of the function between the state police and local police. The one thing I didn't see in there was a cost associated with that.
It's right there on your desk.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's here in front of me. I was talking about the one I got in the email. Thank you, sir.
Well, that has to do with the overtime, but there's no cost from the state police.
The state police? But they are providing some functions, are they not?
Correct. Those are outlined in the memo on Friday, mainly along state highways.
Okay, thank you. I was looking for the cost in that one, the one on Friday.
Yeah, there's no cost to the city for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Misunderstood.
Okay, is there anything else? There's a motion to adjourn in a second that I heard. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. We're in adjournment. Thank you.